So today we're going to be starting from the third hadith of Bukhari, and we're on the first chapter, which is Kitab Bada'ul Wahi, which is talking about the start of the revelation. So in this third hadith, this is from Aisha radiallahu anha, where she says, أول ما بدأ به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من الوحي الرؤيا الصالحة في النوم. So the initial revelation that the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, the way it all started off was in the form of good dreams. Okay, and we know from a different hadith that we'll study later on that good dreams are also a part of the revelation from Allah. And she says, فَكَانَ لَا يُرَى رُؤْيَا إِلَّا جَعَتْ مِثْلَ فَلَقِ الصُّبْحِ. So whatever good dreams that he dreamt of, they were very soon, just like broad daylight, whatever good he saw in them actually used to happen. Okay. And so here it's also important to know that there's another hadith that we'll be discussing subsequently, which talks about good dreams and bad dreams. So the bad dreams, which are which make somebody uncomfortable, or in which somebody sees things which are not good, where he feels bad or scared or any of those things. Typically, those are the kinds of dreams which are from the shaitan, and these are not supposed to be told to anybody. So if anybody has such a dream, which is typically called a nightmare, he should, as soon as he gets up, he should just spit on his left hand side and say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. And he should say, may Allah save me from the evil of this dream. So that is what anybody is supposed to do when they have nightmares. But a good dream, where you feel good and things are positive and good, that is typically a dream which you can and you should relate, but just to the nearer ones, the ones who really love you. You shouldn't be basically broadcasting it out there, because that is only for people who are very close to you and whom you trust. So Aisha radiallahu anha said, the way the revelation actually started was in the form of dreams, good dreams, which used to come true. And then summa حبب إليه الخلاء. And when this started happening, then the Prophet wanted to be alone. So he wanted to spend time by himself, in terms of solitude, where he used to pray in whatever format there was before the advent of Islam, and he would seclude himself and go away from the family. Okay, and so وكان يخلو بغار حراء فيتحنس فيه وهو التعبد. And so when he used to want to be alone, he used to go to Ghar, the cave of Hira, where he would spend time alone, and he would worship in whatever form it was at that time. الليالي ذوات العدل قبل أن ينزل إلى أهله. Right, and so he would. There are times when he would spend maybe a day or two nights in Ghar Hira before he came back, and he would prepare himself in terms of when he came back, even Khadija radiallahu anha would prepare food for him so that he could comfortably spend the day or 2 days that he wanted to in Hira, right? So حتى جاءه الحق وهو في غار هراء. So he did this until the truth came to him. And obviously this is the first revelation where, as we'll see, it was the Angel Jibraeel, right? So he says, فَجَاءَهُ مَلَكٌ. So an angel came to him, فَقَالَ اقْرَأ. So the angel told him to read, okay? And قَالَ مَا أَنَا بِقَارِئٍ. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I cannot read, because obviously he was not literate in the form that is in the regular form. And so he says, فَأَخَذَنِي فَغَتَّنِي حَتَّى بَلَغَنِي مِنِّي الْجُهْدِ. So the angel, sort of clasped him, Prophet Muhammad, and he pressed him so hard that the Prophet, felt very uncomfortable, and then he left him, and then again he said, "Iqra, read," right? And the Prophet repeated the same thing again. He said, I cannot read, and then the angel caught him again, and he clasped him very tightly, and then again he left him, and he said, "Read." He said, "I cannot read," and then the third time the angel said, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." Read in the name of your Lord who has created everything, right? خلق الإنسان من علق, and he created human beings from a clot. He created man from a clot. And اقرأ وربك الأكرم, and read, and your Lord is indeed the generous one. So what happened after this is فرجع بها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يرجف فؤاده. Now obviously when this happened, this was an event which was extremely unusual, and it was very scary. And of course, the way Jibraeel alayhi salam, clasped Prophet Muhammad, so his heart was beating very fast. His heart was racing, and so he came. He rushed back to فدخل على خديجة بنت خويلد. He rushed back to his wife Khadija. فقال زملوني زملوني, and he said, please cover me with blankets. فزملوه حتى ذهب عنه الروع. And Khadija alayhi salam, covered him with blankets and looked after him until he felt better. He was at peace. And so فقال لخديجة وأخبرها الخبر. So of course then he narrated the whole thing to Khadija. And he said, لقد خشيت على نفسي. And he said, I was scared about myself. So, when this unusual thing happened, he was saying, I feared for myself, and that is why I was in the state that I was in when I came back to you. And so Khadija alayhi salam said, كلا والله ما يحزنك الله أبدا. So Khadija alayhi salam told him, she said, you don't have to worry at all, because I've seen you, and that you're a very good person. And so you've got nothing to worry about. So you should not be worried that, Allah will bring you any harm in any form or shape. And she says, إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ, because you look after your relatives, yes. وَتَحْمِلُ الْكَلْ وَتَكْسِبُ الْمَعْدُومِ, and you help the poor, and you help the people, who are destitute, who have nowhere to go for help. And وَتَقْرِيُ الضَّيْفِ, and you look after the guests. I mean, your etiquette is actually very, very good. وَتَحْمِلُ الْكَلْ وَتَكْسِبُ الْمَعْدُومِ وَتَعِينُ أَنَا عَلَى نَوَائِبِ الْحَقِّ. And so, wherever you feel that there are people who are oppressed, you go and help them. So فانطلقت به خديجة حتى أتت به ورقة النوفل. So after this conversation, Khadija alayhi salam took Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Warqa bin Nawfal. Now, Warqa bin Nawfal was Ibn Ammi Khadija. So he was the cousin of Khadija alayhi salam. And وكان امرأ قد تنصر في الجاهلية. And he was a person who had become a Christian in the time of ignorance. So obviously this is before the advent of Islam, and that was the religion, that was the latest religion from Allah, in terms of Jesus was the last prophet which was sent before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And وكان يكتب الكتاب العبراني. He used to write in Hebrew because he was, let's say, a scholar of his time. فيكتب من الإنجيل بالعبرانية, and he used to write the Bible in the Hebrew language, in the Aramaic language. ما شاء الله أن يكتب, as much as he could. وكان شيخا كبيرا قد عمى, and he was very old at that time, and he had lost his eyesight. Yes. فقالت له خديجة يا ابن عم أسمع من ابن أخيك. So Khadija alayhi salam, she said to his cousin Warqa bin Nawfal, she said, just see what your nephew has to say, because that is the best Khadija alayhi salam could think of is, if he's talking about angels and the message. So the first thought that came to her mind was Warqa bin Nawfal, because he was really into reading the Bible, understanding the book of that time. So she thought he would be able to guide him, to whatever the right thing was. فقال له ورقة يا ابن أخي ماذا ترى. So he said, my nephew, tell me what did you see. فأخبره رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خبر ما رأى. So the Prophet told him what he saw, what he experienced. فقال له ورقة هذا الناموس الذي نزل الله على موسى. So Warqa, when he heard this, he said, listen, this is exactly, this appears to be the same entity, the same person, the same angel who came to Musa alayhi salam. And he said, يا ليتني فيها جزع ليتني أكون حيا إذ يخرجك قومك. He said, I wish I had the strength and I wish I have a life where I live long enough to be around when your people will turn you out, when they will turn you out of your place. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أو مخرجيهم. So the Prophet was surprised and he said, will my people turn me out of my village or of Makkah from where I'm staying? قال نعم لم يأت رجل قط مثل ما جئت به إلا عودية. So she said, yes. I'm sorry, Warqa bin Nawfal said, absolutely, whoever has come with a message like the one that has been given to you, it's just a matter of time before they were turned out of their place, of their homes. And he says, وَإِن يُدْرِكْنِي يَوْمَكَ أَنْصُرَكَ نَصْرًا مُعَزَّزًا. And he says, if I am there on that day, I will help you, to the best of my abilities as much as I can. And ثُمَّ لَمْ يَنْشَبْ وَرَقَ أَنْ تُوَفِّيَ وَفَطْرَ الْوَحِيِّ. And but what actually happened after that was, just a few days or a few weeks from that time, Warqa bin Nawfal is an old man, so he died, and there was also a pause in the wahi. So this is the detail of the first revelation, and in my personal opinion, I think Warqa bin Nawfal, it's very clear, if he was as good a Muslim as any, or he was actually, I personally suspect, he was probably, in a sense, in terms of being understanding and declaring, he may have been the first Muslim. Because, if you just look at what he said, he said, it's the same Angel Jibraeel that came to you. And he said, if I am alive, I will help you to the best of my abilities, and so on. So obviously, he was completely on board and believed what the Prophet Muhammad said. But of course, this was really a very critical and important step where, somebody else, a third party, was able to confirm what Prophet Muhammad experienced on that day. So with that, we come to the end of the third hadith, and then we'll continue our lessons subsequently. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.